Hello and welcome to another episode of Laying Down the Lore 40K, a lore podcast in which we aim to separate our Drukhari from our Dark Angels, our Tyranids from our Tau, and our Craft Worlds from our Chaos Marines, and generally ask, what's up with this Warhammer 40K stuff? My name is Ben Crane Barfer, and I know pretty much fuck all about 40K. With me is my co-host, Christopher Cral and Alan.
Hi there.
Who knows absolutely fuck all about 40K.
Yes, I don't.
And my dear brother, Darren.
Woo!
Who knows so much about 40K, it's a wonder he has time to do anything else. Over the years, this dichotomy between our levels of understanding became clear, and this series is an attempt to address that ignorance.
Hello, everyone.
What a start back to the year. Bam!
Yeah.
Hello, lads.
Hello, Ben.
Good evening.
Hello, mate.
Good morning.
We're feeling a bit rusty. It's been a few weeks, hasn't it? It's like,
I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be. Okay, Brad, I'll tell you what. I'll start the bands with a little story. I got Spotify hacked this week, which was a new experience. Yeah. Driving along.
I don't know how Frozen got on my playlist. I just don't know.
It's funny you should say that, Carl, because there's an aspect to that. But I was driving along in London and just listening to some house music, I think it was, and then just suddenly Cotton Eye Joe came on, and I was like, "Oh, fuck.
Brilliant!"
I didn't pay
Nostalgia.
that. And then I changed the track again, and then it changed to a track that just said, "I'm watching you." I can't remember who it was by. And then I was like, "Oh,
it was just someone's voice." I'm watching.
Yeah. Yeah, just said over and over again. And then I text Priya, and I was just like, "You dick, log out of my thing." She called me straight away, and she was like, "Who are you calling a dick?" And I was like, "What was that for?" And I was like, "What, you saying you didn't log into my Spotify?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Son of a bitch." And I went over onto the jam function on Spotify, and some guy just basically logged in as I was driving past him and just dumped like 60 tracks into my queue, and they were all
Legend.
Like hello. It was hello Lionel Richie, hello is what you're looking for. They were all themed.
he had a playlist ready, prepped.
Yeah, like clever bastard.
Situations.
Just to say, my takeaway from this is the moment that Ben is inconvenienced in any way, he shouts his girlfriend down as a dick. That's just weird. Is she all right?
She is now. Yeah, we've made up.
Have her appear on camera.
So if hey, she's real. So if he is listening out there, Matthew Kent, I salute you, sir. Well done. Well done.
You clever son of a bitch.
You bastard. Right. Well, I think that moves us nicely onto the support request. So, big thanks to everyone that supports the show. You guys are mint. If you'd like to support us, there are a number of ways that you can do that. You can head over to Patreon, where you can sign up for our Discord and come and have a chat for just £3 a month. Or you can pay an extra £2 to gain access to our bonus show, 40KO'd. We also have merchandise and links to our affiliates. If you're into the hobby, just hit the Quartermaster link in the description. This episode may also include some ads that help us create content for free. So the easiest way you can support us is just by letting them play fully. It's really that simple. We've also been told that it really helps if you drop us a message in the comments section. So if you're on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, come and say hello and bam.
Give us a follow.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think we should bow down to big comment.
Big comment energy.
Big comment energy. PCE.
Right, Cral. You know what time it is?
Nope.
Citizen of the Imperium. It's time for frontal lobotomy or bottle in front of me.
Hey!
I'm always so impressed that I'm assuming
he can play a recording.
That he can play a recording.
I was actually
is it young
beatboxed.
Fiona that does that sound bite?
Yes.
And I'm assuming that English is her second language. And I could even say that sentence in my first language. let alone my second language.
That you'd rather a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Jesus Christ.
That illustrates my point perfectly.
Fuck's sake.
Would you rather have a bottle or a bottle?
Would you like a frontal lobotomy or a frontal lobotomy?
Yeah,
It's a very simple choice.
that video of those people saying a bottle of water, and it's like American through to English, and then Australian, and then at the very end, it's one of the. I was about to call them merkins. I don't know what they're actually called. The fish people from D&D.
Oh, Murlocs.
There we go, Murlocs. Here goes.
A merkin is a very different thing. I think that's a pubic wig.
I think. But it goes,
sorry, I couldn't hear you over the sound of a merkin rustling. Let me just adjust that.
And here we can hear the call of the merkin.
Rustling merkin.
The rustling merkin. I think that should be a night at the Black Crag. Different podcast. No, it goes a bottle of water, and then the Americans are a bottle of water, and then the Australians are a bottle of water. I don't know why they're and and then the Merkins fish people go.
Nice.
That was a long fucking walk for that. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it really was. Bravo.
It's all right though, but we'll keep it in because it makes you look like a knob.
Keep it all in.
Right, Cral. I was thinking before we've had a good few weeks off, and I thought these questions might be a complete waste of time, but we'll give it a shot anyway.
It's never a waste of time. It's never a waste of time, Keyword.
Right, Cral. Do you remember? What we talked about last episode?
Even if I could, I'm distracted by how big your face is looking today. It's
yeah, you have a very
close
large
to the camera.
face.
I feel like you're kissing distance. I'm like,
no, it's not that. Your head is the same size. Your face is somehow larger.
It's the festive season, mate. It's not just my face, trust me. It's fucking all
your
over
eyes look wider.
That's spuds. There's too many fucking spuds.
I'm carrying a lot of holiday face, so if you could just...
Holiday face.
Oh dear. Right, Cral. Any guesses on what we covered last episode?
Oh Jesus! Hold on. What are we on? 40K. We did Tau. We did the squats.
Yep. And then
we did 2 episodes of 2.
Badadan.
Yes, that war. Yes.
That war.
The palindrome war. That's the one. Yeah,
The race car war. It was part 2 of the Badab War.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I feel a bit more motivated now because we've done some Badab like 40 CODs and things like that. So
okay, right. So he knows his shit there. I think that's what he's saying.
Well,
okay. Question 1. We are about to find out what Space Marine Legion were the Lamenters descended from. What was their
fucking hell? Way to start the fucking questions. Where did they? What was the original chapter called? From whence the Lamenters came from?
So the Lamenters are the chapter, but they are obviously descended from a legion. So what legion did they come from?
The arboreal albumenic.
Albumenic.
Something or there's no idea.
Okay.
The execution.
It was Blood Angels. Blood Angels.
All right, one point to Darren.
You know what, Darren? Ben's going to give you that.
And Dar, if you could just give us the name of that legion in Merkin or Murloc, please.
I can give it to you as an angry man trapped in a box.
That sounds a lot like a rustling Merkin, if I'm honest. Yeah. So the Blood Angels, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, question 2, Cral. After the Imperium issued arrest warrants, how many loyalist chapters arrived in support of the Fire Hawks and Marines Errant?
3.
Oh, so close. Dar, in Murloc, please, the correct answer.
That was 4.
4. Okay.
That was good. So I heard that. I could hear it. I think probably because I knew the answer. Okay, cool.
Well, it's probably because you got your headphones in, mate.
Probably that as well. All right, Cral,
it.
final question. What we're going through these.
No, question for you. Which 4 chapters was it?
I don't know.
You know what, Ben? I'm going to give you that.
Thanks, pal. That's basically 100%. What was the fate of the Carthago sector when the Imperium sent assessors to Badab? Do you remember?
Well, they were the scapegoats. Sorry, they were basically the scapegoats. They got blamed for instigating the
Exactly.
war.
Okay. What happened to them? What happened to the population of that?
Oh, didn't they? Basically, everyone got reduced to a penal colony, basically, and like slaves and like, eternal.
Oh, I see.
Eternal slavery and hard labor for the next foreseeable generations of Carthaginians.
Perfect. I mean, yes.
Cool.
Well, I say perfect. It was. Can you remember how many generations?
All of them. Like, until we say stop, kind of thing.
Yeah, perfect. It was 6, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
Well done, Carl. That was you absorbed some of that.
I did.
Note to all listeners. 6 now equals all.
Which, if we look, Cral, you're at 57.14%, which is close to 60, which is all. So
in total, or just out of 3 questions?
Not out of the 3 questions, no. In total, since our dear Inquisitor friend's last message.
Inquisitor Overlords,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. All right. I feel suitably refreshed.
Right. When last we spoke about the Badab War, the loyalist forces, the Imperium, had held the Carthaginian lords personally responsible for all (6) generations and influx of space marines in support of the loyalist kind of Imperium style people, began a very long and grinding campaign. And so this is really where we see the Imperium bring its full might to bear against Lufgut, Huron, and his the Maelstrom Wardens, or
and his band of merry men.
Of them. His band. I always think men in tights. Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Mr. Chris, a question already. Mr. Chris,
I just want to clarify the what's the word? The rank Lufgut, LUFGT. Is that an abbreviation of something, Lufgut, or is Lufgut itself?
Well, you've placed me into a position of cultural sensitivity because it's actually his first name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's on our 3rd episode. We address the oddness of his first name. Is that a rank?
It sounds like a.
Can I call you Danny?
Like it's kind of like Lieutenant Lufgut. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Lieutenant Lufgut.
So we now have the Inquisition under Yarndice Frayne, who was one of the triumvirate of 3. I've forgotten the other word. Legates. The triumvirate of the Legatine triumvirate, who is effectively assuming broader command of the whole campaign and is theoretically in command of the kind of day-to-day operations of the forces of the Imperium. So we see a number of Space Marine chapters, namely the Salamanders, the Raptors, the Fire Angels, and the Red Scorpions. Now, the Red Scorpions appear en masse, together with several companies from the other chapters, and ultimately tactical kind of command of the armed forces is given to Verant Ortis of the Red Scorpions. He's the chapter master. Much to the chagrin of Verant, again, is a first name. Okay. Much to the chagrin of the chapter master of the Firehawks, good old Stybor Lazarek, if you'll remember. He's the one that set fire to Iblis.
No. Too much.
And so a series of kind of broad offensive strikes are ordered by Ortis, and the kind of first major battle is known as the Battle of Silent Reach, which is an enormous, what I like to call space battle between spaceship, I don't know why I'm doing quotes, where the broad kind of naval forces of both the Maelstrom Warders and specifically the Lamenters face off against the Red Scorpions' naval power and the large kind of sections of the Segmentum Solar Naval Battle Fleet, which has joined this campaign. Mr. Chris.
It just sounds like a bunch of US high school football teams, doesn't it? The Maelstrom Warders against the Mantis Claw thingamabobs from Pennsylvania University.
Yeah. So the Battle of Silent Reach ended up being largely inconclusive. There were a few kind of major losses, mostly to the secessionist fleet, the Maelstrom fleets, where their flagship, the Gauntlet of Wrath, was, what's the technical phrase, snapped in two due to explosions rather than giant hands. So the kind of successes of the loyalist cause start to check the kind of expansion and defense tactics of the secessionists, particularly with the reintegration of the two chapters that were already there, the two loyalist chapters, the Marines Errant and the Firehawks, who were investigated while this kind of larger, broad offensive was going on for a few months. They were investigated by the Inquisition for their role in this kind of debacle that's led to this kind of major intervention. And they were both cleared of any kind of heretical or seditious intent in kind of exacerbating an already bad situation rather than solving it. This kind of Battle of Silent Reach, I have to stop myself constantly going from the Battle of Silent Reach around, was led to a strategy of a more kind of broader set of attacks along multiple fronts to try and find a weakness within the secessionist defenses. And you'll recall that they have had, a century to 2 centuries of just constant construction of the various defenses and fortress worlds around the kind of Maelstrom zone, which contains multiple sectors. They weren't really able to find any kind of weak points. And so the loyalists, while still keeping the pressure on, had to kind of come up with a newer strategy of perhaps more targeted warfare, achieving victories more manageable than a kind of quick, the blitzkrieg, hit them at the weakest point, shatter them, and then mop up the edges. That wasn't possible because they were fighting an entrenched enemy across multiple sectors.
Is that even really considered a strategy? Because that's always my approach in any video game I play, is just fucking charge into the middle and see what happens.
The old splash and dash.
The old splash and dash, yes. Well, hang on. What have you heard about me, Chris? No, I've never played a stealth game beyond the 3rd mission. I'm just no good at them.
Yeah.
But I have a gun, and I'm behind him. Bang! Mission failed.
Speaking of which, Ben, Sniper Elite 5, you'd love it. It's only like a tenner at the moment on the PlayStation Store. You should get it.
Kral sent me a video the other day of him shooting a Nazi in the crotch.
Not actually me. This was a computer game.
And it just it went slow-mo. Bullet rips
and then it
through
goes
this guy's
transparent.
penis. Yeah. No, it goes see-through, so you can see his gonads being blown out the back of his arse. And then it just snaps back to the sniper. It's like, testicle shot.
before this new kind of targeted military strategy comes into play, our old friend Stibor Lazarak, the chapter master of the Firehawks, returns once again to the fore by killing millions of innocent people.
It's like his party trick.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's like, his entrance.
Go on, do it again. Do it again.
Our guest is coming.
He firebombs the planet of Sacristan, which is on the edge of the Endymion cluster. Now, if you were to look at a map of the Badab sector or the Maelstrom zone, which we have in the show notes, if you can imagine that the Badab sector itself is roughly in the middle of the map, there's a large nebula above it, and then the Endymion cluster is right in the kind of top right corner. Opposite to that, down in the bottom right corner, are the Pale Sisters or the Pale Stars. I can't remember which exactly. We'll come to it.
And isn't it near Schindler's Lifts as well, or something like a little
Schindelgeist, Chris?
Schindelgeist, yes.
It's very different. Schindler's Lift and Schindler's List are two very different things.
I tell you, I watched a movie and I've never laughed so hard in my life. It was
You're not meant to laugh at Schindler's List, mate.
No, but it was done. Someone overdubbed it, and it was Schindler's Lisp.
Oh my God.
Anyway, carrying on. So they targeted the world of Sacristan purely out of a fit of pique, a final kind of act of vengeance against the secessionists. Over several days, the Firehawks fleet, led by Raptorus Rex, the huge kind of space station, bombarded the Sacristan's cities. Now, Sacristan's a frontier world, so there's
a lot of bodacious words going on. I'm just trying to just trying to keep up.
I'm awake now. I think we'll pause halfway through for a shot of something, and then we'll back off. So yes, as a frontier world, it's not as populous as more civilized worlds, in quotes, but it has a population of somewhere between 100 to 150 million people dotted around various cities on the planet as they are kind of eking out their existence. Think of like the Wild West. Actually, it's much like California is right now. So that's exactly how you have to view Sacristan.
Smoggy.
Yes. So the assault, once it concluded, had wiped out 90% of the population. So you're looking at around about 100 million people just turned to ash by the various incendiary devices fired at the planet by the Firehawks. Wow. This was roundly condemned, mostly because of strategic wastefulness. The planet had no tactical or strategic value, and it was not key to any kind of element of the secessionist battle plan, and so
it was just willy waggling.
Kind of, yes, it was. Well, it was more running up and setting fire to someone else's willy. Is what happened there?
Willy ignition, yeah.
But Willy ignition. That was a great album. Yeah. Yes, so it kind of highlights the different ethical codes that the good guys play by within the Imperium. There were, as it turned out, no real consequences for the Firehawks or their chapter master for this type of destruction, given that it was a war zone.
Are there such things as war crimes in 40K? Has there ever been a record of like the Imperium charging somebody? Yeah, like, whoa, okay, 4 planets of genocide is too much.
They've been summoned to The Hague.
Yeah,
exactly.
I can't recall any instance of there being like from a moral perspective. There have been in the past criticisms and prosecutions of commanders who have been seen as needlessly wasteful with the Emperor's resources.
Okay.
But it highlights the independence that a lot of Space Marine chapters have. In fact, almost all of them. They don't answer to anyone other than the High Lords of Terra and occasionally the Inquisition, if the Inquisition get a beam nerve on it. So they can largely do what they want. And in fact, do.
Yeah.
What they want.
What they want, yes.
Thanks, Cral.
High five.
Yeah.
well done.
Now,
Okay,
Cral,
right.
what they want in this instance is a
What
survey.
they really, really want.
Yeah. The more targeted strategy of the loyalist forces now brings battle to bear on the system of Viah. The planet guards one of these large kind of warp routes within the Maelstrom, and thus is seen as a good target to secure because it's effectively like a logistical highway. That's what they're trying to capture, are these warp routes, the stable warp routes that we've discussed before, allowing them to move material and warriors through the sector to be able to effectively combat against the secessionists. So a three-pronged attack is launched.
Three-pronged Jackson.
A 3 Jackson. The Red Scorpions, the Marines Errant, and the Nova Marines launching coordinated assaults aimed at kind of really crippling the orbital platforms and the manufactories. The manufactories, as they're called. Some of the words just get out of hand.
Manufactorums.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And thus weaken the kind of secessionist control of that system and therefore the warp routes. It is the first time that the loyalist forces come up against the Tyrant's Legion. Now, the Tyrant's Legion, and we've mentioned them previously, are equivocal to the Imperial Guard regiments. They're the planetary defense forces that have been so well trained by the Astral Claws, and they're so well equipped that they're able to go, not equally toe to toe, but they can put up a hell of a fight against Astartes because they've been trained how to combat them. They've been given tactics and equipment useful against, transhuman supermen.
Just
fucking
massive
guns.
guns. I mean, is that the...
There you go.
That's the...
It's a gun with a gun with a small guy holding it, yeah.
What strategies would they use? Would they...
Splash and dash, mate.
Splash.
Go for the knees, behind the knees. That's...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Side of the knee.
Go for the...
Oh, yeah. But that's generally a less armoured part of a Space Marine, isn't it?
Yeah.
The joints.
The joints.
Yeah. Well, joints can lead to trouble, Chris. We all know that.
Tell me about it.
The Loyalists faced a staggeringly well-organized resistance spearheaded by the Tyrant's Legion, and ultimately they only achieved partial success in the first raid by disabling, I think it was four orbital platforms and kind of caused minimal damage to the production facilities in orbit around Viah. Mr. Chris.
What are we talking about?
The Badab War. We're on episode 3 of the Badab War.
We're still on the Badab War. I couldn't tell. It's like, is this a continuation or is this like after the Badab War?
We're not even halfway through. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Guys, what are we doing here?
Guys, we're being recorded right now, right? Okay. Can you see me? Because I can see you.
So despite the kind of stiff resistance they faced, the Loyalists managed to achieve a kill ratio of 178 to 1. So for every Space Marine that fell, every Loyalist that fell, 178 enemy troops died. Which,
yikes.
That's a fairly good result. But
not too shabby.
Yeah, not too shabby. But there are literal generations of tyrants' legions facing off against them. So there are hundreds of millions of human troops faced off against, 4,000 in total?
Are these like Imperial, like traitor Imperial Guard?
I suppose technically, yes. A traitor Imperial Guard always implies chaos. These guys are not chaos. They're secession. They're independent-minded. Yeah, renegade. Right, okay. There we go.
But they are essentially Imperial Guard that have gone bad.
They are planetary defense. They're planetary defense force troops that have been trained to the level of Imperial Guard. They were never Imperial Guard.
Right. Okay.
Looks like an Imperial Guard. Walks like an Imperial Guard. It ain't Imperial Guard.
Dies like
and 178 of them died for every Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the end of this campaign, Viah stays in control of the secessionists.
Sorry.
I was just about to go Viah, but that's Rasputin. Sorry. While all this is going on, there are lots of battles happening concurrently. One of them is a loyalist troops in the Cathargo sector suddenly start dying en masse because of ambushes by the Executioners chapter, who are still floating around in their ship, the WAAAGH. So the secessionists are harrying.
What an ugly name.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shit name. The Night Slag.
HMS. Ugly.
The Night Slag. So yes, this shows you that the secessionists are harrying the supply lines of the loyalists, trying to keep them on the back foot while reclaiming Viah and other systems. What it does highlight is that there are a number of worlds within the Maelstrom sector that are holding out against the Tyrant of Badab, against Huron and his forces. There's a planet called Sumgrad, which is a fortress world, and we've discussed them previously. These are fortress worlds. So they're entire worlds dedicated to defense and have huge stockpiles of weapons and material to supply neighboring systems. And Sumgrad has basically told Huron to do one and has been holding out against the tyrant for certainly
and it became a chant.
A number of decades. Do one.
Do one. Huron. Do one.
I love it. We're going to have a commemorative T-shirt made of "Do One Huron."
A do run Huron. A do run Huron.
A do run.
A do run Huron run. Sorry, Lufgut. Sorry, just
I was just imagining that maybe this is the reason why he went bad. It's just no one took him seriously. It was constantly
if he'd only thought to just change his name officially, this whole thing could have been averted.
Sumgrad is laid siege. It is smack bang in the center of the Maelstrom zone. So whoever ends up getting control of that has a huge tactical advantage, because from there they can strike out almost every system within the Maelstrom zone.
What position was that? What was that strategically advantageous position, and who was holding it at the time?
It's a world it's an imperial world, a fortress world that is held out against Huron and his Ron and his evil troops. So it's a loyalist planet on paper, but they're cut off. They're just besieged, and so they have no way of striking out.
Where are they?
What do you mean? Where are they?
As in, like, positionally, they're actually but where in the Badab sector?
So if you recall that of the Maelstrom Zone, the Badab sector is roughly in the middle, and Cermgrad is sort of halfway between the Badab sector and the Endymion cluster on the at the top of the sector.
It's like a service station between the two.
Exactly right.
Yeah, brilliant.
And
Moto or Welcome Break? Which one?
Yeah, it's going to be one of them. Is it Burger King? Is it McDonald's? Who knows? We'll just
Costa
we'll
or
have to stop
Starbucks.
by it. But one thing is sure, we need fuel, so we got to stop there anyway. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, £1.72 for a litre. Jesus Christ! Just put a tenner in. We'll stop at the next one.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so the fall of Cermgrad would be a huge blow to the loyalist side, and the loyalists are quite deeply concerned about it because they have no way to mount an effective relief operation for them because it's right slap bang in the middle of enemy territory. The new kind of, what would you say?
Well, just detonate. I'd just like fucking self-destruct. Just be like, right, if we've got no way to strike out and the numbers are against us, let's just kamikaze this motherfucker.
I'd say, Chris, I now can't rely on you in a crisis because you'll just be in the corner cutting your wrists. Rat cheese! This is it.
I've been told I'm quite defeatist. Yeah.
I asked Priya the other day what her zombie apocalypse plan was, and she would just looked at me in all seriousness and just went, "I'll kill myself." I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, that solves that problem for you, I guess. Like,
Ben, you asked. Like,
yeah, exactly. I guess I'm on my own then.
Man, she must hate you to want to turn into a zombie to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to take myself out, but not before I take you out, you son of a bitch.
You're coming with me, you fucker.
Yeah, okay, but what would you kill yourself with, Priya? That's the question.
In response to this renewed campaign, and quite effective campaign of the loyalist forces, Huron proposes a ceasefire and a bit of a powwow. And he does so at a system enchantingly called Grief, which is, interestingly, it's at the other end of the nebula. It's at the other end of the nebula from Cermgrad. So it is quite central within the Maelstrom Zone. Despite the objections of Inquisitor Frayne, Commander Ortis of the Red Scorpions agrees to meet with Huron, trusting him as a commander of a Space Marine chapter, and to also demonstrate the kind of resolve of the High Lords of Terra to get this whole situation under control. They meet in an abandoned asteroid way station, and it quickly turns into a kind of heated shouting match. And while people are calling each other all kinds of names in various dialects, the meeting is adjourned.
Luftgut. Yeah.
Luftgut, more like shit gut. Am I right? So they...
But in Murloc.
So while they're taking a break to kind of allow cooler heads to prevail, the parlay is ambushed by unknown vessels hiding within a local kind of gas giant's atmosphere. That's a planet, not an actual giant gas. The raiders, and here we go. Are you ready? Including heretics and mutants.
Oh,
someone has won the bet that was made last time.
I can't remember who bet what, but yes, I think it was me. I think I said Chaos was definitely going to get into this.
Yeah,
Suck
but
it, crap.
Chris made a valid point of like define getting into it and define chaos. And also, I remember he asked who you are.
And what are we talking about?
I think my answer to that was heretics, mutants, and ambushes. So shut the fuck up.
So the raiders assault the way station and end up actually killing Ortis, the chapter master of the Red Scorpions, and several from kind of both sides of the delegation, including the Mantis Warriors chapter master Sartak. Great name. That's a name, Chris, not a what's name rank.
It's like blue tack. It's just stickier.
No, it's sarcastic blue tack. Sartak.
Oh, you want to put that thing there, do you?
I suppose I'll stick, yes. The loyalists were led to safety by the chief librarian of the Red Scorpions, Servan Loth, first name, surname, who recovered... Sergeant Loth. But I love if he just went by his first initial, he would be Chief Librarian Sloth. And who managed to recover Ortiz's remains and clashing with both, fighting against both the raiders and the secessionist forces, and managed to get out, not only get the survivors out, but also kind of forged his own legend within the chapter as a whole. Mr. Ben.
Did Lieutenant Huron actually intend to try and find peace in this powwow? What was his desire?
This will be answered in the next section called Escalation of Blame.
Okay, right.
Shut up, Ben. The Loyalists, of course, accused Huron of treachery, while the secessionists claimed it was an Inquisition assassin plot. Inquisitor Frayne suggested the attack might have been orchestrated by third-party individuals to prolong the war, aka the forces of Chaos. The kind of sticking point in all of this was the death of Sartak, the Mantis Warriors chapter master, who were deeply unsettled by his death because they had kind of started to rankle against the Astral Clause's rule of the Maelstrom Zone and kind of Lufgut Huron's personality in terms of just domineering and domination of the entire section of space. And so Sartak's death was, let's say, opportune in terms of the needs of the secessionist leadership, because it strengthened the resolve of the Mantis Warriors to stay within the secessionist cause, because it was framed as the loyalist troops killed their kind of chapter master in a dishonorable ambush. The betrayal at Grief really put paid to any kind of hopes of reconciliation, and the war began in earnest at a more kind of severe uptick, with the Red Scorpions and the Astral Claws kind of dead set against each other, constantly seeking blood and vengeance. With the death of the chapter master and the head of the loyalist armed forces in general, a new leader was sought, and again, it was logically pulled from the Red Scorpions, a commander by the name of Karab Cullen, who was a captain within what was the chapter? Red Scorpions. And so they sought to kind of have a continuity of leadership thus. And because the Red Scorpions were still the largest chapter within the Maelstrom War, or the Loyalist force, it was logical that Cullen would be selected. During his elevation, there was two real kind of big events. One was the arrival of more Space Marine chapters to the Loyalist cause. So we see
just what this situation needs.
Yeah, more confusing team names. Another 3 chapters arrive to help with the Loyalist cause, specifically the Pale Stars region down in the bottom right of the map. And these are the Howling Griffins, the Nova Marines, and the Sons of Medusa chapter. The other aspect that came along was that our good friend, old Stibor Lazarek, threw an absolute conniption fit at being passed over for this young upstart from the Red Scorpions. But an election held by the kind of commanders of the various Space Marine chapters, Karab Kuln achieved kind of the majority vote. And so I'm assuming Stibor Lazarek went off and had a look for a world he could set fire to. Because that seems to
as
just
was
be
his way.
As was his way of stress.
As you do. I would kill everyone on a planet somewhere.
Kuln initially launches out again against something called the Hollows Point, which is a mining world, and converted it into a fortified loyalist base. So they'd have a new base of operations from which to penetrate into the Maelstrom Zone. Dubbing it Vengeance Station, it became fully operational in the same year, and as I say, served as a key staging point. Obviously, though, even before the completion of the station, the aggressive operations of the secessionists fought to kind of destroy the station, but they were rebuffed. And the Red Scorpions, eager for vengeance against the death of their chapter master, and kind of at the help or led by Kuln and his kind of youth and strategic leadership, tempered with the wisdom of the chief librarian, S. Loth, ensured that the kind of retribution that was meted out to the secessionists was extremely bloody, but very carefully calculated.
With hilarious consequences?
With hilarious consequences. With hilarious consequences, he asked, hopefully. Yeah. Once again, we see the Loyalists redeploy. They send out reinforcements from the Nova Marines and the Sons of Medusa chapter into not only the Endymion cluster in the top right, but also the Sagan system, which is center left on the map of the sector. So, and Loyalists, they're set up outposts along the kind of south. No, don't confuse directions. Around the kind of bottom left of the sector, around the Kamara system, which led then into battles against the secessionists at the Gargathea. Gargathea 3. Isn't he the baddie that
Lady
kind of
Gargathea
sought out the Smurfs? No. Wasn't it Gargathea and the Smurfs? Gargamel. It was Gargamel and the Smurfs.
Gargus.
Lady Gargamel.
Gargasmurf. I don't like the use of Garg and Smurf in the same sentence. It doesn't make me feel very uncomfortable.
Garg.
What?
Smurfs.
You've never gone Smurf gargling. What?
Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Welcome to yet another episode of Is It a Warhammer Thing?
Hooray!
WTF.
Which is really just a kind of multiple choice test, an inter-podcast test for the lads. And so we're going to talk about chapters. So here we go. How many secessionist chapters are there in the Badab War? Is it A, 3, B, 3.5, C, 4, or D, 5?
Okay, Ben, let's have a think. We've got the Astral Claws, Mantis Warriors,
The Lamenters.
I'm going to say 2.
Okay, Cral's saying 2.
No, I'm not. Lamenters. But then it becomes a bit ambiguous to which were the loyalists, in my mind, which were the loyalists and which were the... You think Lamenters? Executioners, were they? No, they weren't, were they?
I can't remember the names, but I think I know the number. There were 17 chapters in total in the Badab War. And they were, by the end of it, enormously outnumbered in terms of chapters, not necessarily by Marines, because the Astral Claws had shit tons. Yes. I think it's 5. I think it's 5.
Right. I think it's closer to... I'm going to say 3.5. I think it's a bit lower than that.
I'm going to look like such a dick now that I've said I think I know this and I get it wrong. Like, I bet I get it wrong.
Fuck it, 4. I'll go for 4.
Chris is
he's
going
gotta
4.
be right.
Ben's,
I know you're gonna be right.
going 5. The correct answer is 5.
Yeah.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Yes.
Can you name the chapters?
No.
Yes, so we have
Astral Claws. Are the Tiger Claws considered?
Tiger Claws, yes, they're technically part of it. Lamenters.
Mantis Warriors.
Lamenters.
Firehawks were on the other side.
Executioners?
Is it the Executioners?
Executioners. So Lamenters, Astral Claws, Tiger Claws, Executioners, and Mantis Warriors. Well done. I feel strangely proud.
Wow. Yeah. I'm going to have to go lie down for a while. I think
no, there's no lying down because we got the back half of this fucking episode to record.
Oh, shit. Okay,
right.
Fine.
Right. So this was a significant battle between the Raptors, the Salamanders, and the Fire Angels against the Astral Claws, who were supported by the Mantis Warriors. This was fought on a incredibly corrosive, acidic planet, which devolved into more like kill team actions, Ben. With both sides sustaining significant losses, but eventually the loyalist forces were displaced from Smurf 3. I beg your pardon, Gargathea. I'm going to flog that joke to death. Reclaiming the planet reclaiming the planet for their secessionist cause. The kind of pause in the conflict from the bloody nose of Gargathea 3 led to the loyalist forces kind of redeploying and reinforcing the various fronts that they were attacking on. The Marines Errant chapter transitioned into a reserve capacity, so they were withdrawn from the front lines, as were the Firehawks. So the two loyalist chapters that were there at the start were pulled back into more kind of garrison style duties, specifically around Hallows Point, which was the kind of the new stronghold resupply point they were setting up.
Because they kept just setting fire to everything. The guys were just like, look, Firehawks, just fucking go and set fires over there. All right, just stay out of the way.
Okay, look, I need towels and a bowl of warm water. Go. Just
What I love is the idea that some of the commanders are meeting up going, like, there's no air in space and everything's on fire. How are they doing it?
Do you know what I think I need at this point, Dar, is just a bit of a zoomed out assessment of where, you know, like when you watch like World War I or World War II documentaries, and they always have, at one point they'll just have a little animated map where they'll have, you know, a red area that has a swastika in it, and then the I don't know, a blue area that has, you know, some lines on it, and then they show the front line moving, so you get an idea of like what territories they've got and kind of where. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, because there's just so much fucking going on that I it's hard to follow. So what's the division?
If you look at your left hand as take that as the kind of rough map for the Maelstrom zone. If you have it,
slap yourself in the face with it.
Slap yourself in the face and let me talk. No, the Imperial forces control the thumb,
right? Okay,
and they're raiding out from the thumb to the different parts of the Maelstrom hand, and so it's still, they don't have much in level of control. But that is about to change.
Fantastic.
With the garrisoning of Hallows Point by the Marines Errant and the Firehawks, it frees up more frontline troops to go off and fight. And indeed, what they do is they go off and relieve Sterrad. If you recall, we play, that's the kind of fortress, the crucial fortress planet in the middle of the hand, I suppose now is the analogy.
So it's currently surrounded by secessionist forces, the Saxophonist forces,
Saxophonist forces. Sucked off in his forces, yes. So
the horn section. Oh God.
So 2 chapters, the Raptors and the Salamanders, execute a daring raid into Sterrad and manage to, using stealth tactics, to breach and sabotage the secessionist defenses, paving way for significant orbital bombardment of those enemy forces. The liberation then of Sterrad dealt a huge blow to secessionist forces, and it effectively split the Maelstrom zone in 2, because the loyalist forces now had this dedicated fortress from which to strike out. So they've now moved from control of just the thumb to the thumb and a triangle into the center of the palm.
This God hand almighty. Thing is
the limits.
This is how, I'll tell you what, man, it's working for me. Like, I can really picture it now. Like, go guys.
The limits of audio. So with the liberation of Sterrad, as I say, it's bisected largely the Maelstrom war zone, and unfortunately, before they can capitalize on gains, a new threat arrives, or news of it arrives, from the Howling Griffins, who are in the area of the Chimera, which is that bit, the fleshy ball of the hand? No. The fleshy ball of the hand.
Under the
fleshy ball of the hand of the face. Thumb meat. There.
Okay, they're in the thumb meat area, right?
Thumb lump meat. Yeah.
What has been uncovered through inquisition, I suppose, and aided by the Howling Griffins and a few other chapters, is that the full story of the fall of the Tyrant of Badab is laid bare. Do you recall? Do you remember?
That's my thing. That's my thing. Stop it. No.
You'll recall that Huron was saving the gene seed to build up the forces of the Astral Claws. We had known this, and our listeners had known this, but the Imperium had not understood the full depth of what was happening.
Ben probably wasn't aware of it, as usual.
Yeah.
He was like the only person who didn't.
It's like absentee parenting. It's a helicopter parenting, but like further up. Spaceship parenting. Now that the kind of records had been unveiled, because they had captured an apothecary, a medic space marine from the Astral Claws, and the full kind of story was laid bare. Do you remember the ship that disappeared for 1,500 years and came back?
Yeah.
The Bakasura. Another point to Chris there.
Holy shit, Cral.
Yeah, that was amazing. The Tiger Claws. And then they disappeared while they were petitioning for more gene seed. They disappeared.
Yeah.
They had contacted the Astral Claws, who were connected to them genetically and also by name. And Huron absorbed that company of Tiger Claws into the Astral Claws to keep them safe and hidden, while he used Astral Claws gene seed to build up their numbers, and so allowed the Tiger Claws to come again as a full-forced Space Marine chapter. One thing led to another. The road to Maelstrom is just paved with good intentions, and Huron effectively says, Oh, I can just keep using gene seed. This had brought the Astral Claws to the point where they thought, well, why are we just stopping at one legion? There's been no consequences so far. Why don't we just
keep prodding,
keep expanding our numbers? Yeah. And so the investigation turned up there were heretical experiments with rapid gene seed cultivation, which further kind of underlined the disastrous consequences and betrayal of the imperial mandates that had been given to the Astral Claws as part of the Maelstrom Warders, but also as a Space Marine chapter. And it was felt that the corruption of the Astral Claws could be laid at the feet of their absorption of the Tiger Claws, that somehow the Tiger Claws were wrong in that kind of... They were perhaps slightly more heretical than loyal, as they were clutched into the chest of the Astral Claws, much like a viper. And so that was the theory that was running through the through the
thing
campaign. Sorry, yes, all that for that fucking word. Good Lord.
Campania.
Mr.
No, me first. I put my hand up first.
Mr. Chris.
And I was waiting for my opportunity. Please explain what a gene seed is and how it's harvested, because all I can picture are just a bunch of 8-foot awesome dudes jerking off into the Tupperware box.
Power jerking.
You're like, and where there's like, oh, give me some gene seed spare. I just like see like the dregs of like a fucking thing. Like, no, I'm not finished with that yet. I'm like,
all I can picture. Jesus Christ. You mean all this is giving you the excuse to picture now?
What's that screaming? Is that how they practice battle cries? Yes. Okay, so the gene seeds are 2 organs within a Space Marine's body that collect genetic material from the 19 implants, and it stores it in those it stores it in different
glands
sacks within the gene seed.
It's made it even worse, to be honest.
Right in my thing, there's one in the neck and one in the crotch, I think, although I may be wrong.
It's a double gene seed Jackson.
And so Gene Seed Jackson, such a sorry state. He was the lesser Jackson. He was a member of the Jackson 6.
It was going to be Jackson 6, but they were like,
Gene Seed is extracted once a Space Marine has died, although not always. Sometimes it's taken from living Space Marines. And each of the little kind of sub-sacks within it are taken and put into a nutrient-rich jelly from which they can grow the new versions of the different 19 organs. So think of it like programmed stem cells. That's how to think of it. Okay. That doesn't help, Darren. I don't know what stem cells are.
Okay. Follow-up question. What are stem cells and how are they used?
Okay. If you hold up your right hand, stem cells.
Your right hand or my right hand?
Yeah, and then slap yourself with it and stop asking fucking questions. Okay, my question, Dar, is was the heretical gene seed experiments that you mentioned, was that as a result of the potential corruption of the Tiger Claws? Was it them who kind of said, like, let's maybe make this a little bit more heretical than you'd planned?
No, they're heretical in terms of it's against kind of accepted biological scientific dogma for the expansion of a Space Marine chapter. So you have...
You're not meant to stick it up your ass, mate. Jesus.
So
you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
that's a waste of a good gene seed, you bastard. That was John. We just cut. That was John. We just cut it out of him like a few weeks back.
There's one really tired. There's one really tired guy called Gene. Yeah. No, so it takes a standard amount of years to correctly grow gene seed and then implant it into. So it is mature enough for implantation into Space Marine neophytes, the actual trainees, as it were. So what Huron's legions were doing were trying to shorten the amount of time it takes for those organs to mature and then be implanted in. So rather than it taking, say, for instance, 30 years, they were trying to get it down to 10 or 5 years.
So when you say heretical, it's not necessarily like
it's not chaos.
It's not corrupted in that respect. It's just not in line with Imperial standards.
Yes. So,
right.
but in terms of corruption, the gene seed itself can become biologically corrupted. So you get mutated gene seeds. And you see some of that with, for instance, with like space wolves, because they've got elongated canines. So there is a kind of a stable corruption within the gene seed that happens from time to time.
Right, okay. Cool.
The news from, while everyone is reeling from this expanded gene seed spaffery, the news from the Howling Griffins is that the executioners have rocked up en masse and a staggeringly devastating assault is committed against the loyalist outposts and the listening stations and, more importantly, the astropathic relay complex. Because you've got to remember, while all this is going on, there's all kinds of weird psychic voguing going on in terms of communication. Exactly right. For our listeners, both lads are voguing. And it's not their first time. It's quite easy to tell.
Whoa.
The Howling Griffins, related to the Screaming Badgers, were massively outnumbered, but nonetheless mounted a tenacious defense, suffering staggering losses up to the point where 70% of the Howling Griffins were injured or killed within the defense against the executioners. Interestingly enough, the executioners are a successor chapter to the Imperial Fists, and their preferred weapons are axes. And so there's a lot of beheading that goes on with the executioners. So executioner by name, executioner by, name.
Is that melee axes, at a disadvantage when you've got people with guns?
No, because they also have guns.
Okay.
That really levels the playing field.
Yeah. We love axes. Yeah, with gun. They fire. They're actually like projectile axes.
Yeah.
My 12 gauge axe. Oh, axes. Okay.
That's quite a good idea for a weapon, Cral. It's like the gun swords from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Or
with
from one of our earlier episodes, the jizz trebuchet.
Splodge.
Sploosh.
He's been splodged.
Because the executioners believe in kind of the honor of the duel, seeing that their enemy was effectively disabled, rendered kind of combat ineffective, they withdrew, which drove Huron absolutely tonto. He was fuming but held his tongue rather than expressing his displeasure at them not wiping out the loyalists and taking the planets.
Everyone's like, "You okay, hun?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Don't want to talk about it."
Fine, yep.
Yeah, it's just those fucking executioners again. They're just
them and their honor. So the
Huron, why do you sound so camp? Shut up.
Oh, is that one of your exes? Can I just see that for a moment, Slice? Yeah. So yes, he instead of expressing his displeasure at them kind of leaving their enemies defeated in an honorable fashion, he sort of curmudgeonly welcomed them and their continued involvement to the secessionist cause, because you'll have to remember that the executioners only existed as a single company up until now, and then a significant number of them arrived with their their high chaplain, Thulsa Kane, who I think was an enemy in one of the Conan movies. So we find ourselves roughly at the halfway point within the Badab War, where suddenly, and without notice, there is a significant uptick in raiding activity from both Chaos and Xenos forces within the Maelstrom Zone itself. Two real kind of enemies appear quite suddenly. There's an orc pirate invasion. So a huge orc fleet from the Kala system targets secessionist lines and launches really quite devastating assaults on WAAAGH into the Endymion cluster. Ben, Endymion cluster on your left hand is the tip of your pinky and the next finger. The ring finger, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darren. Yep.
You're very welcome. And engage the Mantis warriors in a significant kind of fast-paced hit-and-run land battle across the face of several planets. While that is happening, Chaos rears its head. A growing significant number of chaotic kind of raiders and cults on a system called the Magog sector start flexing their muscles and raiding not only the kind of secessionist forces, but also the orc forces. And in fact, their kind of growth and attack of the orc forces were what drove the orcs into the Endymion cluster in the first place. They were driven out by the kind of weird, unorky, chaos-tainted demon lads of the forces of chaos. This led ultimately to a significant counterattack being required by the Astral Claws, who engaged with the Lamenters, their Blood Angel successors, and effectively exterminated several of the cults that threatened the larger sector, despite the high casualties that came with battling the forces of Chaos.
You've been exterminated.
You've been exterminated. It's at this stage that a rather unique Space Marine chapter appears at the behest of the Inquisition. It's a chapter called the Minotaurs, who are a
barbershop quartet. Minotaur.
Yeah, they're like a Magic Mike style performance.
Jesus, your brain went there quick, Ben. Jesus. No, they actually wear armor. Yeah, they wear armor, Ben. Settle down.
Just from the waist down, though.
Although, somewhat ironically, their culture is based on Sparta. So
cool.
So it's like the 300,
titular.
But Space Marines.
Yeah, nice.
They rock up and just start laying waste left, right, and center. And while they acknowledge the loyalist kind of war council and the nominal leadership of Karab Khan, the chapter master, a chap called Asterion Moloch, who there was a miniatures for, and he was a Terminator with a power spear and a big shield with the Spartan lambda symbol on it.
And a gun?
And a gun.
What? And a gun.
And a gun.
No, actually, no. Okay. No, he would just headbutt people.
Yeah, with a gun.
Fucking
with a gun. Bang! So they had not been summoned by the Higher Lords of Terra. They had, in fact, been summoned by the Inquisition. And as I say, while they nominally kind of acknowledged the authority of Karab Khan and the War Council, they seem to just pay lip service to that. And they appear to have a pre-planned list of targets to attack, specifically around the pale stars in the Ben. That's this bit here, the opposite side of the thumb at the bottom.
The opposite chubby bit. Yep.
The pinky meat. maybe. I don't know. And their kind of aloofness was, against the Imperial kind of command was really highlighted by their representative to the War Council was their chaplain, Ivanis Enkmoy, sorry. And
wow.
his only real kind of thing of note is he wore red-rimmed glasses and never spoke. And so
that was his thing.
Was just,
that was how he was characterized. He's the guy with the red glasses.
Yeah. So, but that was weird because he only wore red glasses. He was completely nude except for red glasses.
In fact, no one ever wore glasses in 40K. It's like he was the only person that had bifocals.
And so, despite kind of asking for assistance or giving kind of proffered commands, the Minotaurs only really answered to Inquisitor Frayne and their list of targets, the prearranged list of targets. The targets that they had were militarily important, but were not targets for capture. They were targets for decimation. And it's really where you start to see the Minotaurs' raison d'etre, not only in the campaign itself, but in their broader use, is they are used to bring errant Space Marine chapters to heel. They specialize in executing Space Marine chapters.
Wow.
And so they have a lot of equipment from the age of the Horus Heresy that allows them to effectively bring errant Space Marine chapters to heel. And so their campaigns, as they went down through their list of targets, they depopulated the Pale Stars sector, the whole sector, many systems, many planets, by 20%. They just wiped out anything on their kind of target list. Who
are these guys called? They sound rad.
The Minotaurs. They're really cool.
Are they
hell?
Are they in any way related to the Space Wolves Legion? Because wasn't that also
no? That's an excellent callback. I won't answer that at this time, but I will say that the Space Wolves Legion was originally created to destroy enemies up to and including other Space Marine legions. They were specialists at that. So yes, you're drawing a very good equivalent there between those two organizations. The Minotaurs didn't have their own way entirely. The Executioners, once again, picking up axes. Axe beats spear. No, it doesn't. Were engaged in staggeringly fierce battles across the Pale Stars, which seemed ultimately as the kind of, they both seemed to enjoy it. They both kind of relished facing off against each other because personal honor was a significant factor for both chapters. And while the Minotaurs were able to secure key planets and systems within the Pale Stars, they did force the Astral Claws really to withdraw from some of those systems to be able to hold key secessionist worlds. Now, when we say a world or a system is key, it's because it's near to a stable warp route. That's really what you have to mind. So it's you're operating at a logistical level. Can you get equipment and stuff to the various forces that you need? So by late in that year, the loyalists felt that they had gained a significant amount of momentum, reclaiming systems like Viah and Galen. And so you start seeing now that, Ben, the loyalists own this part of the hand. So they had significantly increased their area of influence.
For listeners, Dar has just circled from the top of the thumb across the first joints of the index and middle fingers, and then down across around the center of the palm into the chubby area of the thumb joint and then the whole thumb. So it's a significant part of the fucking hand. I mean, you give somebody a good slap if you had just that part of the hand. It would be weird, but you could.
On one of the worlds within the system, the Signax, there was evidence that the Astral Claws were engaged in negotiations with Heretic Mechanicum. So was the dark Mechanicum of the Horus Heresy, heretic scavengers along through the Golgothan Wastes area, and we're trying to get to buried weapon caches on the world of Signax. The Sons of Medusa, who are a successor chapter to the Iron Hands, and hopefully listeners will recall that the Iron Hands are a very cybernetic and bionic heavy chapter. So huge close ties to the Mechanicum as was, and now the Mechanicus. Needed to get in there and neutralize the threat. This led to tensions then between the Sons of Medusa and the newly arrived Exorcist Space Marine chapter. Another chapter that leans heavily towards the Inquisition in its command structure, in terms of the Inquisition gives it orders, it goes off and does stuff. The Exorcists, much like the Relictors, another Space Marine chapter, are key in understanding the effects of chaos on Astartes. And so the Exorcists used to be, their lore they had a retconning. The Exorcists used to be, they would have their implantation, they'd become scouts, and when they were ready to become full battle brothers, they were taken by the Inquisition and forcibly possessed by demons, and then the demons were exorcised from their bodies.
Wow.
So it was a range of Space Marines that were largely immune to the forces of chaos, but were also quite heavily mutated.
Wow.
The mutations were trimmed back so that they would actually fit in a suit of armor.
So how do you forcibly possess a Space Marine?
Well, the Inquisition has many factions within it, including ones that try to use chaos against itself. So they will effectively have performed a chaos ritual to possess the Space Marine. So pretty dark. Even in the worlds of 40K, it's pretty dark. But so the Exorcists are very staunch loyalists. Again, huge ties to the Inquisition. And thus, the idea that the Sons of Medusa would gain access to all this heretical technology, which is actually what they wanted to do, caused a bit of a rift between them and the Inquisition, and thus the Exorcists, as it were. Ultimately, the Exorcists go, well, fuck this for a game of soldiers, and withdrew from Signax because they felt that the Sons of Medusa were prioritizing their own kind of hidden agenda with their kind of desire to get this technology above the needs and the benefits of the loyalist cause. The loyalist cause. Again, we're seeing a lot of the independentness of Space Marine chapters and their own kind of needs and objectives coming out within the campaign. We arrive then at the Battle of Sagan, a significant turning point in the war. Sagan, Ben, is the thumb knuckle there.
The thumb knuckle, right.
The thumb knuckle.
Thank you.
Where it was the thuckle, yes. So it's a significant staging point for the secessionists, and it was really their last major planetary kind of hold within the loyalist, in quotes, section now of the Maelstrom zone. The secessionists mount a defense at all costs, resorting to the use of viral weapons that killed tens of thousands on both sides. just kind of really highlighting the intense level of bloodshed of the battle. I mean, you're looking at the combined forces of 4 or 5 Space Marine chapters. So what? The Fire Angels, the Red Scorpions, the Exorcists, and then minor elements of the Salamanders, Raptors, and Nova Marines, all of whom wage war in a different kind of style. They all have their own different specialists. And so you're seeing a very well-coordinated planetary attack. The Fire Angels deploy their full chapter strength and bear the brunt of the kind of casualties to contain the Astroclaws' kind of viral attacks and their own kind of desperate, suicidal, victory at all costs attacks by the secessionists. It was one of the largest battles within the Badab War and had by far the highest death toll, numbering in the millions of troops on both sides, and hundreds, if not thousands, of Space Marines, which are, well, I suppose, if you're the Imperium, you value Space Marines more than you do the bog standard Imperial troops. This was a real victory for the loyalists because the Thuckle sat on a major stable warp route, which included a connection to Sturmgrad, the fortress world at the center. So now the loyalist forces had a solid highway through which they could bring in more forces and redeploy their firepower and their material, allowing them to have a much more significant play in how they respond to secessionist forces. And really, I suspect this battle really does start the decline of the forces of the secessionists. So it was an absolute crushing defeat.
So the front line now has really moved to Sterngrad. It's fully, they have a supply line, it's fully reinforced. They're no longer a kind of nebulous mass of different conflicts. It's like, these are the defined lines.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
In the wake of the battle, the secessionists were forced to limit their raiding and kind of toe-to-toe fighting to really piratical raids, like commercial raiding, as it were. They needed resources now because the Pale Sisters had been
mainstream
decimated.
Raiding.
Yeah, mainstream raiding. Raiding before it was cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And as I say, the Maelstrom Zone now was largely split in two, with the Lamenters and the Astroclaws in the south, and the Lamenters and the Astroclaws in the north. Sorry, Lamenters and the Executioners in the south, and the Astroclaws all around, and the Mantis Warriors in the north. Following this victory, which is seen by the armchair generals back on the High Lords of Terra, some loyalist forces, specifically the Nova Marines, Raptors, and Howling Griffins, were withdrawn from the conflict completely to go off and fight an Orc WAAAGH that was kind of plaguing the Ultima Segmentum, as the secessionists were now largely considered to be contained within the Maelstrom Zone. There was no chance now of this plague of kind of heresy expanding out of, or expanding into, the Imperium as a whole. We'll close out this episode with a real body blow to the secessionists, which is the large-scale destruction of the Lamenters chapter. The Minotaurs, acting on information from Inquisitor Frayne, were able to work out Lamenters' movements and where they were being used as a shield to kind of protect the southern Badab sector and the supply convoys in that region of space. Although they had suffered significant losses, they were continuously deployed within the Pale Sisters, and were able to kind of move materiel and forces around to kind of harry loyalist forces. The Minotaurs, as I say, with the information in hand, were able to work out exactly where the Lamenters chapter's kind of headquarters were. Their chapter bark, kind of large warship, the Mater Lacrimarium, am I reading that right? Which is held over a planet called Optra. Lacriminum. I keep thinking in my head, administratum. Yeah.
Precisely.
The Minotaurs kind of warp travel in. There is a 17-hour siege where the Lamenters' fleet is largely shattered, and despite heavy losses, the Minotaurs overwhelm the Lamentors. There are now only 311, all of whom have surrendered, all of whom are imprisoned in a space hulk that orbits one of the planets in the Sagan system. There were less than 100 deployed elsewhere within the sector on various missions, but the chapter was largely neutralized for the remainder of the war.
Holy shit. How do you imprison a space marine? That was pretty serious prison.
Well, it's a space marine with like no armor or weapons is just a bulky dude. So, you slightly thicker walls.
Don't worry, he's just a bulky dude.
Yeah. It's just a bulky dude.
Stick him in the bulky dude cell.
I see this prisoner's annotated with BD. What does that mean? There are also dark rumors about the madness and insanity of the Lamenters, because as we know, they don't know, but we know that the Lamenters are a successor chapter, it's easy for you to say, of the Blood Angels. They are affected by the kind of mad rage that happens every now and then within a Blood Angels Space Marine's life. Yes, thus the forces, the kind of aggressive Space Marine style level forces of the Successionists are, they lose about 20%, 25% of their effectiveness, their effective fighting force. And more importantly, all of the ships that survived have been claimed by the Minotaurs as a kind of right and salvage for the battle. So that's where we're going to leave it today.
Yikes.
Shit is going down.
Oh, Jesus. Chris, you're still there. I didn't realize. I'm
here, buddy.
In a while. I thought we'd broken you again.
Yeah, it was episode 2 and 3 kind of nosebleed level information
this
for
is
Cral.
Much more engaging. There was much more warmongering, and
as soon as the hand got involved, it was much clearer.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think my favorite part of that was the hand, and I would like to suggest
the hand of explanation.
That the hand of explanation is used throughout the rest of this this story, because how many listeners do you think during that episode went like that and held up their hand while driving, while working? The colleagues must be looking at them and going, "What the fuck is this?"
Looking at the sole of their foot, like, hang on.
Yeah. No, that makes it perfect. So we're talking about 1/3 or so of the Badab sector is under Imperial control.
About that, is now under Imperial control. Yeah,
fantastic.
It's inevitable, isn't it?
But the main warp routes in and out are now under solid Imperial control.
Fantastic. And it's only going to go down from there.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've got access like that, it's kind of it's the threshold, isn't it? It's the tipping point.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, they should have done it centuries ago. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? But
If you were in charge, Cral, this whole war would have been,
mate.
It's like Trump with the Ukraine war, like 24 hours and it's done. I'll have it sorted.
Yeah, exactly.
Great, mate. Get in there and do your best, like.
Mr. President, what does exterminatus mean?
The builders outside are redoing the road, and Amy's dad's here, and me and her dad this morning were just like sipping a cup of coffee, like, do you know what they should have done, right? What they should have done? They should have done like this. Just like telling the builders how to do their jobs.
Backseat building.
Backseat building.
Excellent. I think Chaos definitely made an entrance, didn't they? There's been no corruption
what an entrance.
What an entrance. But there's been no corruption of Space Marines per se. But there's been some Chaos giblets thrown in the mix.
Chaos giblets, yeah. Yeah, there was definitely some there was some beneficial chaotic intervention, but also some detrimental chaotic intervention by the Magog, by the pirates out of the Magog cluster.
The Magog pirates.
The Magog cluster is the second fat pinky bit on your finger.
On your pinky.
On your pinky, yeah.
Well, there you go. It's the war explanation tool of 2025. Is your left?
In fact, and it's even got the main warp roots in, because you see the line that separates across your hand. That's the main warp route into
Perfect. Yeah, that means you're going to live a long time.
Yeah. The love line, the soul line, and the supply line.
Right, we have got to wrap up. Is that all for the Badab for this episode?
For this episode, yes. Badab. And a Badab to you, sir.
All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. Details and imagery for the topics we've discussed in this podcast can be found on our website at layingdownthelore.com. We also have all our previous episodes on there, release schedules, and merchandise. And again, if you're keen to support the show, just click on the Quartermaster link in the description and support this show. I mean, it's all there in the explanation.
Just fucking get on with it, guys.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, what do you want us to do it for you? I mean, anyway, we'll be back again soon, despite just how little Chris and I know. And until then, a Badab to you.
A Badab-bye to you.
Toodaloo.